heroes and heroines, and welcome to Practising Programming in C, in which we are continuing to do Cinera's config file parsing stuff. At the end of last stream I spotted that there was something going on here that I was thinking wasn't correct. Yeah, it's this, right? This include is equal to Cinera config, Cinera-included.conf, and there's a similar include in the same scope. So these are all within the reader scope. This is the first thing I've got nailed down today. I sort of have a suspicion as to what's going on there. Essentially, it's going to be, what is it? It's reader, isn't it? So, and reader itself is going to inherit from risky. So yeah, it's going to be this, right? This thing here is going to be passed in. Well, let me put it another way. Let me just say what first happens. I'm going to go through this entire file, parsing in all these bits and bobs, including this thing here, right? So we're going to pass that in. Then we're going to keep going down the file. We're going to come into risky. So this is a scope within that root scope. We're going to come into here, and the first thing we do is absorb all of the stuff that we'd already previously passed in. So we're basically absorbing, we don't absorb projects because the rule is that we don't absorb projects, basically. That's just the rule. And also we only absorb things that a project can contain. So a project can contain stuff like, it's all these do to, right? So that's what a project can contain. And if if one of these things are set outside this, in their parent scope, then they absorb the thing in, essentially. So what's going to be happening is we come into risky, project risky, and first thing it does is absorb all of those things. And one of the things that it can absorb is the include identifier. This false thing here means whether something is a singleton or not. A singleton just means whether you can only have one assignment of that type, of that field within a type, essentially. So we come in, we absorb all that stuff, including that include scope, really. And then I think what's happening here is we are then seeing this, and we are treating it as a string. But when we look up into the already set stuff, we're just failing to find this particular thing. And I think that's possibly to do with one of a couple of things. It's either we are we're correctly allowing things that are not singletons to be assigned more than once, but we're not actually correctly preventing this entire assignment from figuring out that this has already been set. What I mean by that is going into the thing and going into the previously set include and seeing if there's one set that has the value Cinera-included.conf. So yes, the first thing I want to do is just probably have a quick look at the code, maybe. See what that's doing, because it should be in absorb. Well, you've got absorb fields, haven't you? And then you've got this here. Yeah. Pushing into reassigning. And yeah, it might be actually reassigning. Whereas it should actually straight up ignore it. Although I don't think that's what's happening. I think what's happening is it's pushing a new pair. So I think actually let's step through it. Let's just give us a little if in here as well. What would this be? If token is semicolon, if let's say if pair ID is equal to included, or pair, what was it? Pair key. Oh yeah, that. Yeah, don't do that. It's not one of those. Okay, fine. Jesus. Right. We do just making a little macro that's just like, just stick one of those breaks in. So, we've got an add-in included. So at this point, we are in win the project risky, probably. Okay, yeah, so you can see that it's, here we go. This is perfect, actually. Isn't it? Yes, it is, because we saw that the project risky itself, yeah, it includes this, which is, yeah, exactly what we've seen. So what is should push, actually? So that reckons that we should push. And it will do. So why is that exactly? We've obviously got the sense of that incorrect. Right, so we're just assuming that you should push. So that's the sense we've just said it is. So it's always going to be true. And only if, I mean, it's only if a field is a singleton can we actually ever say that we shouldn't push. So yeah, that set, I kind of had a suspicion that that whole logic was a bit busted. It wasn't exactly giving us what we wanted to know. So essentially the case here is just, where is this assignment exactly? So there's an assignment there. We should be trying to get an assignment. So this is not a singleton. Let me just write down a few notes. In fact, where's that thing? So the case that we're dealing with here is it's not a singleton, but it's not a single, but there already exists an assignment with the field set to our thing. I mean, it's a bit weird wording, but kind of what's going on. I guess another part of the problem puzzle is that the thing that's assigned is a full-on type, so a compound type. the thing that is assigned is a full-on type, while the new assignment is a simple string. You know, without any subtype fields, let's just say. Oh, let's say subscope. Subtype. So if this was a subtype, it would be this get scope, really, wouldn't it? So the problem really this is possibly another idea that I was wondering about. It's essentially like, even if you were to do this, include equals Cinera_included.conf, because an include itself is actually a compound type, maybe we should push them on. You know, maybe we should record in the, well, I'm not sure exactly where, but include store somewhere the fact that this is actually a compound type. So then when you actually see, whenever you see it, an ident include, you sort of know that you should be expecting, for one thing, like when you go through and you see include equals that, you can actually expect, I mean, in the case of a type, in the case of a compound type, you can expect either an opening brace or a thing. Whereas in the case of something that's just a basic string type, you want to be expecting after the actual, well, you know that you can be expecting the string and then the semicolon. Similarly, if something is a number type, you know that you can expect the identifier, the equals, and then a number, and then a semicolon. And I think that should be consistent all the way through. So whenever you see something like the include thing, or actually here, right, whenever you see this, right, because support is a compound type, as you can see from that, whenever you see that, even if you see that it is just a string assignment, you actually push it onto the thing as a scope, and the scope itself will just, it'll contain no values. Does that make any sense? And also, is that what's happening at the moment? Because there isn't a, well, there is a page, yeah, there is a page tune up here. I guess that begs the question, actually. And also, I thought we'd figured this out. I thought we got that working, at least. You know, in Mio's thing. Patreon. Aha. Right, so we broke that. Yeah, so what you're seeing here, when this is printing out me attached to this person, you print out the ID of the person, then it loops over all of the string pairs, and then it loops over all the number pairs if it's got one. Like here, you can sort of see inside this root scope, it's printing out all the string pairs, and then finally this number int pair, and then it's going over the subscopes within the root scope. So yeah, we're printing out the ID of the scope, then printing out the strings, those guys. This is being considered a string, and then it's printing out the scopes that it contains. And yeah, I didn't think that we'd nailed that down. Maybe it was just to do with, maybe it was in changing that sense of that, where is it? should push or whatever it was. Should push, yeah. Maybe it was in changing the sense of that at the end of the last stream that broke that part of it. But I think what I will actually do, I'm going to see if I can make these things always get pushed on as actual scopes. Do you know what I mean? Because also that would mean that when I push on, well, you know, as I was saying, like, these things are all strings. Is there anything here that could be? Include equals that. Oh, down in risky actually. So if we go down to the risky project, we should see the include, shouldn't we? Yeah, right. So here we go. So you can see that this is being printed out amongst all of the other string assignments. But even if this thing contains no fields itself, it should be printing out after the update interval. I would suggest, you know, we should be pushing it on as a actual scope, and then and then it gets printed out as a scope. So it gets printed out after the int pairs. So yeah, let's try and do that. What we're doing here is adding to the field, isn't it, really? You know, when we get this field. Oh, right, yeah, that was another problem actually. I think we'll have to have. So we've got this type specs thing here. When we come all the way down, we do set a type spec. Set type spec, yeah. So we only ever set that one down here. So I think we actually want to be saying, when we first come in, we've got a parent. So this parent thing here is, it's going to be this here. When we do that, set the parent to be the result, I think we actually also need to have the idea of a root scope that contains whatever fields. And this was kind of something that I wanted to avoid, just to save us having so much bullshit, really, so much stuff in this type specs function. But I don't think we can get away with it if we're going to actually sort of, if we're going to want to use that information. So push type spec field. Fit type spec field. Basically, all this is going to be, it's just changing this type field to contain a little bit of information. So let's just do that first. Let's also add a spare one. That'll come in handy for this little dude here. You can see that doesn't have an actual. It doesn't come with an assignment. Sorry, it doesn't come with. Well, yeah, it doesn't come with an assignment. So when you see one of those, you don't actually expect an equals and then a string or a number. You just expect a semicolon. Or is it a type or is it a scope? I don't know. Probably doesn't matter. What do we want to struct up these guys actually? So probably won't actually give us much value, honestly, because I guess we're using it. It is really this, isn't it? Config type field. It is exactly this thing here. This performing the actual structifying of it. So yeah, push type spec. Let's just take another thing here. So we've got the identifier. It's the field type. And then the in fact, when you push an actual type spec, the type of this is actually a scope anyway, isn't it? So in some ways you don't need to do that because you already know that. The only difference is actually in this dude here. It's and also config identity. What did I call that? Config field type. Yeah, let's just call this config field type. So when we push a type spec field, okay, and then whenever we call this dude, we set what this thing actually is. Yeah, it is a string. I mean, most of them are actually strings. That's a type. Did I call it type or scope? Can you remember? Where's my cursor? Oh. It has no member named thingamajig, doesn't it? A config type spec. Oh, right. Yeah, fine. Yeah, cause I was going to like be hard coding it to scope anyway, but we sort of know that it doesn't matter. We don't need to actually record that because we know that a config type spec is itself a scope. Oh. Right. So, that answered our question. Numbering scheme. I think that's a string, isn't it? Oops. Title list end, is that ft bare? Project should have been a scope. Ignore privacy. The log level is a string still. And the update interval finally is a number. Okay. I think that was all right. So quick scan. That support ain't right. To support can contain icon and URL, which are strings. The include can contain. I mean, they are containing strings. Although, as you can sort of see, it's a bit weird, but like this actual string itself is sort of scoped. I think we just consider that to be a string though, because that's, as far as our parser is concerned at this point, this is a string, right? It's only when we come around to the resolving of these things that we need to know that this is now a scope, if you know what I mean. And we might change how we actually do that. So a person can contain a name, a homepage, a support scope. Medium can contain icon and name. Default medium. Now this actually, yeah, it will just be a string because it'll be the string that's corresponding to this name, corresponding to this field of a medium. Well, actually, no, it's not that, sorry. It's corresponding to the ID of this medium, by which I mean this part here. Guest included a scope, as we've mentioned. Now the interesting thing about some of these is that, for example, the unit, we're only going to support certain actual units. So we're going to support like cylindrical, linear, and what was the other one? Actually, that's not even that, is it? It's not even the unit. It's the sorry, it's a numbering scheme. Cylindrical, linear. Well, there's another one as well. Whatever it is, the basic idea here I'm sort of driving at is that there's a, like, maybe we want to have a way to, well, also the true or falseness, right? I think there's a bit where we say yes or no, isn't there? So yeah, these guys here, what I'm basically driving at is we might want to be able to say false in that way. So it's not really a string. It's like it's a sort of keyword in its own right. You know, in which case you sort of have, as well as having like a string type and a scope type and a number type, you also have like a Boolean type which would recognize this sort of unquoted syntax. In a similar way, you could do the same thing with these numbering schemes, cylindrical, linear, and whatever the other one was. Yeah, there's linear, you can see. Indeed, I just don't know whether we really care for that. Was an option though. So the title is the string. I think we got down to unit, didn't we? Probably. Okay. So now I don't think anything will have changed because we haven't actually, whoops, we're not actually using that information yet. So yeah, nothing's changed. All that's changed there is that it's used a bit more memory to allocate those dudes. Pushing a new. Okay. But now what you want to do is when you do the scope tokens, right? If token is identifier, right? Then I suggest what you should be doing is switching on that new thing that we just got to determine whether you need to actually be expecting a number or a string, right? Or an open brace for that matter. So let's do that. So we're switching on the oh, also we needed to add the dudes, didn't we? The dudes to the root node. So hang on a minute. Well, actually, we just want this, don't we? This is like the root scope. And this is like, I didn't null, I guess. And what does false mean in this context? It's permeable, yes, the root scope ain't permeable. I think it's fair to call that add null. But then what you need to do is you actually need to be able to push on all of these different types of things. So essentially, I think it's going to be everything that the project contains plus the top level types, isn't it? I think that's all it is, really. So it's pushing them all on is the same as the actual types that they are. Push the project scope on. That'd be nice actually if I could sort these guys by the type of things that they are. It's a slight bit of busy work, but that might be nice to be able to just do that. So, is there an easy way of doing this? I mean, essentially, it's like yeah, so let's macOise this. So what we do, we're just swapping, right. Nope, that's not how you do that. Surely there's an easy way, but I don't fucking know what it is. I suppose I could have added to the macro the move down the line, couldn't I? Never mind, we've done it now. So yeah, that allows me to just sort these fuckers. So we've added everybody from the project scope. We then need, what scopes have we got? We've got the include scope and the project scope. So these are not singletons. They are, you can have multiple projects in the root scope. You can have multiple includes in the root scope. So then we need to add scopes for the support, right? You want to add scopes for the medium and person. And I think that's it, isn't it? Support, include, person, medium, project, yeah. And you shouldn't be able to set icon and name. You shouldn't be able to set any of those guys at the root scope because they don't really, because these things aren't permeable, right? Because the support And the include are not permeable. This guy is for some reason. Not exactly sure why they are. I mean, since they are permeable, maybe that means that we should be able to set the ident name out of the root scope. Can't set the home support. That was why, wasn't it? It was because we want to be able to propagate the support down to the person. And we are saying that we can set the support at the root scope. Now, if we can't, yeah, I mean, I guess we'd never end up in a situation where we erroneously try and pull in, try and absorb a name on a homepage. We wouldn't end up in that situation erroneously, because we've already established that you can't actually push those guys onto the root scope anyway, so it doesn't matter. So here we go, we've got our bare field here, got a number field, then we've got our bunch of scopes. Let's sort those just to be extra especially fancy. And it did build, didn't we? So we won't use anything that was bullshit. Yeah, okay. I think we're good to go. Scope tokens. So we're here, aren't we? If token is an identifier, it's possible you don't even need to do this preamble. Well, not preamble as such, but just an if that if there. It's possible you don't need to do that. But we'll, in other words, so you're doing the switch as soon as you come into here, as soon as you've got the field from the dude. Oh no, you actually need to well, you need to make sure that you've got the fields, don't you? So how do you get the type spec? Set type spec is what you do. So the first thing you want to be doing, and it's not get config identifier from token, it's just that, isn't it? Because you don't care, do you? I think that's right. Well, maybe not. I think that's how you do it. Get type spec from the type spec, so just double check. If the ID is equal to that. And when we did the init type specs, we set the roots to be null, yeah, so that's probably fine. That's probably what you want to be doing, I mean. So what that means is when you do token scopes, scope tokens, when you do scope tokens, you should always be able to grab the field out of the parent's type spec, right? The type spec field count should always be, that should always actually be a thing, so you shouldn't need to have to do that. Yeah, you will need to set. You will need to do this if at least to see if you're in the actual field. See if you're in the type spec. And I think I might change the sense of this actually. You know, put the if field up there. So once you've established that the field is in the current spec, then you want to be switching on the actual, switching on that field itself. Just double check that it runs. It does. There's the switch. Type, wasn't it? Oh, that was also another thing, wasn't it? It was like, yeah, the is set and singleton situation. Tell you what, let's just let that happen first, and then let's do some switching down here. So let's switch on the field type. If it's bare, then we should expect a semicolon, right? So let's just say that. Bare string number scope. They were them all, weren't they? Yeah. So if something was a string, we need to expect token sign. I think we're probably replacing this whole thing, aren't we, really? You'll just expect that. And then you want to be expecting a token string. And if something is a string, that was just test code, so let's just make a note. Well, so get config identifier from token. Now, unfortunately, what does expect token do again? Because the thing is here is that we are seeing if the token is a string, the current token, and then staying where we are. Whereas in here, if we're expecting a token, then we're going to see it and move on. Don't we use another way of doing this somewhere? If token is an identifier. Was it in a different, an old version of a function maybe that I did that? That returns just a bool. We've got a token dest, haven't we? Ah, there we go. So you can use that as it. You can use that destination to actually put the token in. Right, that's how you do that. Let's just have a quick gander at that. Expect token again. He just straight up sets the token to be whatever it came in as. So he doesn't bother about the types of things. So that means that well, we'll have the key, won't we? What's this doing? It's taking a config. It's taking a token. I don't think this is doing anything anymore, is it? Because doesn't the token itself... Oh no, the token just contains the strings, don't they? We don't actually know what their ID is yet. So yeah, maybe we do initialize a new bunch of stuff here. So we get it out of the token. Yeah, okay. So let's just pull all this lot down. Up, brother. Where's it going? There, isn't it? Yeah. So we're going to get the config identifier from token. And we don't need to do this because we've already incremented past the actual dude. A string can be followed by either a semicolon or an open brace. So that seems to be correct. See if it builds. So then what happens here is the number should be the same thing. That should also expect and assign. I should have scope, honestly. And then it should expect a number which it sets in the token which we initialized up at the top of the function. So it gets it from the token, yeah, which is perfectly fine. And it uses the tokens in 64. Don't need to increment past that. And then we need to expect a semicolon, because that's just how we say it works. And if we have got that, then we can go ahead and try and assign it. So how did we do this again? I think we are doing the syntax correct stuff, aren't we? If it's a semicolon, yes, we are, essentially, anyway. That guy's expecting a semicolon, and it's not using the token stream again. So that seems to be correct, I reckon. We now need to do the push scope. Where the hell is that happening? Have I lost a bit of else if tokens open brace? Oh, we've put this in the wrong area. I see. Yeah, right. So actually what we should be saying, that a string should, the same as a number, it should expect a semicolon. Right, it shouldn't be able to expect an open brace. So just the way we did this number, yeah. Sure, I yanked that. So yeah, we expect that semicolon. And then we want to see if there is an assignment for it. This shouldn't have to happen because we've expected the semicolon, so we've incremented past it. It should push, so it's the should push that we're actually going to be figuring out properly. And then once that's done, I believe that's all it needs to do. And there shouldn't be able to be a syntax error necessarily, because that syntax error should have been caught by the expect token thing. So that shouldn't actually have to happen there. And we should be able to break. So here we go. So we're going to expect a token assign, and then we expect a string, don't we? I think we always expect a string. Yeah, in the same manner that we're expecting a string up there. Let's pass it the token to put the stuff in. Right, here we go. So if the token is a semicolon, then what we want to do is we want to push on a scope. I guess I guess in either case, actually, well, actually, let's actually check for the syntax error first before actually doing anything. So we only push stuff on if it's syntactically correct. So if the token is a semicolon, then what we want to do is we want to push the scope on, set the type spec for that thing, absorb the fields, and then we want to set the and then we want to jump back out of the scope, essentially. And increment past the semicolon. So I think we're doing all of the... Oh, actually, we need to also get the scope, don't we? Yeah, so we do need to do this as well. Maybe we could just do this getting scope outside. I mean, just as soon as we've done that. We also need to get this pair from somewhere, don't we? So if token is a semicolon, yeah, let's just do the whole thing. So print the current token T. Yeah, like I say, we haven't got the scope, have we? So the pair is just I think we need to set an actual pair. Because I don't think you can necessarily pass the token as that, can you? I mean, I guess you could just change it so you can pass the token. And then it just uses the content. I mean, I'm just doing this same thing up here, aren't I? Or in fact, the guy from up here. So we do all of this. If we've got a parent, then we just set the parent to be that. But it's also like, well, because it's a semicolon, you're not going to bother. So I think you just do nothing, right? And just because you've already I think, am I absorbing everything that I need to be absorbing? It's possible I'm not absorbing everything actually, because you only absorb here. It's already got a scope. Yeah, that might be not quite right in terms of this absorbing. But let's just do that. And this doesn't like this. Okay, so we need to actually do this. Let's just do it out there, just so everyone can get to it. And then, if token is a semicolon, we need to increment past the semicolon. We need to increment past the open brace. And also, you remember I was saying, like, don't push something on if there's a syntax error. I guess, well, I mean, I guess you can just let that catch it. So that's going to return. This is going to increment past the open brace. This guy's going to increment past the semicolon. So yeah, I think that's right. So we can just remove all of this lot. I think this else needs to stay, doesn't it? Yeah, there's no field. What's that for? That was a switch statement. I think you can safely do that. So yeah, so token identifier. See if it builds. Expected identifier. Expected token identifier. So token identifier. So I'm probably not incrementing past somebody correctly, or so here's an increment. So we're on the identifier. Increment past that, and then we're going to switch on the things we want to be expecting after the identifier to be one of those. Semicolon, an expect token will increment past. Increment. That should increment as well. So we should be that should be fine, shouldn't it? Except the semicolon and increment past it. The number, expecting the sign, expect the number, and then we expect the semicolon and increment past that. Then in a scope we expect it to be a sign, and then a string, increment past that string, setting that token. And then if the next token is a semicolon, do this stuff and increment past the semicolon. If it's an open brace, then we do this stuff and increment past the open brace. Otherwise, we just return 0. Else invalid fields, we're not getting that. That returns 0. So let's do this. I can't see anything obvious. So we've got the identifier HTML dir. And we've got an assign. So HTML dir So we're coming in. If token is an identifier, which we've patently said that it absolutely straight up totally is, then we want to be switching in here, right? Let's see if we actually get there. Yes, we do get here. And we should find that we also get here. We don't get here for some reason. So why are we not getting here? What is the field? Identifier again. Should really apply to get that thing put in the dictionary, that spelling. So what is the actual number of the field type? So it's saying it's that number, so that hasn't been initialized. So what is current field is in spec doing? So it's taking the type spec. So we've got this field here. Config field type ID. Push type spec field. So here we go. So we're pushing the type and then pushing the identifier. Did I just not include the HTML dir? No, HTML dir is there. Can I just look at the parent's type spec? So that takes a config type. So this thing does contain a HTML dir singleton. I guess also you could make the print type spec show a bit more stuff. Let's make some strings for these guys. Print type spec. So print to type spec is going to let's, how do we print this? Let's call it a multi, let's say it's a whatever it is, and it's that. What was it? Field type strings or something? Field type names. And it should be the field. So it doesn't let them read. Yeah, so clearly these are just being set. Well, they're not being set, are they? Set type spec. get a bit further. Set ID. The type spec itself doesn't contain. Doesn't have a type because it's just an actual scope. So we've now got a read memory error. Get config identifier from token. Called by scope token. So it's this particular call. So if it's a token, I mean, presumably it's just reading from a token that isn't set. Just double check actually. Just so we've got strings, scopes. So we've got the title list end bear number, scope, string. Yeah, they seem fine. So we're getting through. Update interval. Ah, so maybe this is just the first number one that's busted. So expect token. It's setting. So it's got a destination here. It's got all these tokens. So it's saying if token type. It's just setting the dest to be the token at the current index. And when we do print token, because we are doing a print current token, aren't we, up here? Aren't we? Yeah, print current token, magenta bold. Is that the field type that we're printing out, that 0 and 1 thing? I think it is, isn't it? Print current token. So yeah, the print current token is the thing magenta. So it's printing out this. And then what's the next printout that we're seeing? There's a print pair here. So are these getting a bit mangled, I wonder? So these guys are, I feel like this is not right. Like when we're printing these pairs, why are we not getting both sides of it? Get config identifier from token. Yeah, it's returning ident null probably, isn't it? So the token should have been set by this thing here. Shouldn't it? And do we see an include? We probably don't see an include. just bear with me, just one moment. I will be right back. So let's have a look at what we're seeing. We are getting an unexpected thing going on here, aren't we? When we get config from identifier, let's see what we're actually getting for the key. I think it will be a number, won't it? So we're getting 0000. Yeah, right. Which is unusual, isn't it? So can we just print token? We can't. We should be able to, shouldn't we? What's it want? Was a token and an index? Really? What's the index supposed to be? The index isn't even used, is it? Can you see that being used anywhere? I can't see that being used. Ah, hold on a second. Print tokens. Print token. Oh, sorry, yeah, it's been used there. Well, okay, fine. It'll just be the current index, won't it? So we're seeing that it is a string with... Oh, right. I see. So we've expected a string. Oh, we shouldn't be setting this here, should we? That's unfortunate. That's what the problem is. It's set to right, yeah. So really, rather than calling this token, we should be calling this identifier, because that's what this is actually working as. And then we need a way to actually get the tokens thing out as well. That's the problem. So if a token is an identifier, then you set the identifier to be that. Right. And then down here, you want to be able to say another thing. Good to clash now. So it's not print token, it's actually print key. So I want to get this from the token, and I want to be getting the value from the actual assignment. Do you know what I mean? Tokens apparently undeclared. Oh yeah, right. Oh yeah, that was the thing, wasn't it? So so the identifier and the value. Right. So here again, we want to be getting a different using a different token for that value. And you want to set the key, get a token identifier from the token, and also, you know, like I was saying, oh no, I think I did decide that the token itself actually does contain, it is actually the string, isn't it? It's not the identifier ID. So we need to get this from the value. Next one. Get that from the identifier, and the value we get from the value. Where's the next one? So that's just identifier, isn't it? Alright, so we now successfully get through the file. Pushing a new. Play template equal to template underscore play.html. Now don't know if that's just automatically fixed all our problems. But it seems like it might have done actually, doesn't it? Because you can see that there aren't multiple includes now in the project risky, whereas before we were getting this line up amongst this lot, but now we're not. We're getting it. Well, we're not getting it at all. We're not getting it added in here. Let's just go down. Yes, you see that's like okay now. Print. Blimey, is there really that many print? Oh, I'm on the wrong file. That's what I'm trying to get rid of. And the key. And closed brace. Pushing a new closed brace. Where's that happening? Well, obviously it's going to go down here, isn't it? Still printing out a closing brace somehow. Pushing a new. Oh, we're doing the print current thing at the top, aren't we? So we're still printing that with pushing a new. We've got that open brace that we're still printing. So we're pushing a new. Push pair. Oh, we did print. I'm not printing the pair. So yeah. Sorry, I was thinking that I could print the pair. And is that going to take a scope level as well? Yeah. So I guess pushing a new. Print pair. Shouldn't that be printing at least something? Let's point to a pair. No, we're pushing new. And also print pair, I think itself depends on new line, yeah. Are they not getting set, I wonder? I mean, we're not getting any complaints about anything necessarily. Okay, so that is happening. Yeah, fine. So we've got a reassignment there. We had already set icon, reassigning, pushing a new. Okay, that's nice to see. Error invalid field. This is going to be for the support. Sorry, not for the support, for the something. That's going to be for that. Right. So invalid field, and then it will depart that assignment. And then we've got another invalid field for the project, which is correctly departing because it's currently, well, it's getting us right the way through. To the next, to the next thing, which is the support PayPal. Yeah. Here in the scope. Yeah, so I think we got this. So, I mean, maybe it's working right. I think what I will do though is just take a brief break for a sandwich, and then I think what I'll do is I'm just going to go over this stuff. I think the tokens are fine. Like yeah, when we tokenize, we don't have the notion of whether something is a string, a number. Well, sorry, we do actually, don't we? We do have that notion in here, whether it's a string or a number, whether it's a sign. Should be a number somewhere as well. We don't have the idea of whether something is a scope though. So we don't know if this include thing is like a scoping identifier, if you know what I mean. We don't know what these fields are at this point, but we do know that later on. I mean, I'm not print. I don't think I'm printing that out, am I? Anymore. Well, actually, yeah, I am. It's these guys here. We didn't have the idea of whether something was bare or a number or a scope or a string, but we now have that here. And it seems that we're sort of in this change here. We're now honouring the types of things essentially. So that should mean also that I should be able to remember when I commented out one of these dudes down here. This I should be able to let that now actually be parsed. And we should see within the project I, if we can find that, project I, we now see title list end is what we're looking for. Maybe we don't print those out because we don't. I wonder what that would be actually, because we do need to record that. What happens with those guys actually? So if something is a bear, then we just expect the token. Ah, we're not pushing it on, are we? Ah, unfortunate. So how do we do that exactly? I mean, I guess we could cheese it and just say for now we initialize a pair that has the identifier but it has no content. You know, like you just do this essentially. We're not actually figuring out whether we should push it either. Well, it won't have any value, will it? So you're literally just saying that. Can I do this? Well, you just don't set it, do you? I think that should be okay. I mean, we're not checking for whether it's already been set. There you go, there's a title list end. So we are now getting that thing. I mean, that's another question, like how do you actually interpret all of this information? That's probably going to be an entirely new story, entirely other story, just trying to figure out, you know, all this title, this prefix and delimiter and suffix and end stuff, title, suffix, you know, all that stuff. Do we actually, does that have a type, that title list end? Yeah, of course it does. It's a bare type. And it's probably also a singleton. Should push false. So, yeah, right. I think we need to basically put it, I've got title list end. So now if I just put on the second one, we should should only see one of them in there. Title list end, yeah. However, you can just trivially say that this ain't a singleton by doing this, and then you should be able to get two of them in. Yeah, title list ends. That's just how that works. And that should push is determined up here. So I think, yeah, where are we? We've got 10 minutes remaining, or maybe 5 actually, 5 or 6. So yeah, let's listen to the rest of this shellac song, and then get a sandwich. If there's already an assignments. Yeah, so basically we want to be getting this a bit more concise. You know, this getting of assignments and determining whether we should be pushing on a new guy. And I don't believe that we need this should push Boolean. We should just be able to use the field information. And also, for that matter, we shouldn't need the is set, should we? because we're actually now getting assignments, aren't we? So this get assignment will tell us if something is set. So I guess we need to figure out the story as to when we bother about whether stuff is set. I think we need to distinguish between when something is already set as a product of having absorbed it, and when something is already set as a product of us having set it ourselves. I think that is something that we need to fully straighten out the story regarding. So let's do that as a to-do. Let me just do a quick look for other to-dos, because consider the necessity of skip comments. We're not calling it, are we? Do we want to preserve comments anyway? We don't need to preserve comments because all we're doing here, we're not doing what Casey's doing in his HHT format, in that he needs to write stuff back out to the same file. We're not going to be modifying this file. We simply read it in and stuff all the settings into a struct. Like, we don't need to bother about the comments. So I think it's just fine that we just don't. Well, basically the idea behind this skipped comments was just like, if we're tokenizing everything, including the comments, then when you come around to like parsing them, you want to be skipping the comments. But we're not even tokenizing the comments. We're not even doing skip comments. All we're doing is, when we encounter a comment, we just don't push that token onto the tokens list. So these are our only to-dos. Wow, okay. That's pretty nice. So there's only 2 removed to-dos. And let's just keep them there just for the moment. Let's keep them there for now, and let's make an actual to-do. I like how I've just completely rewrote that one function call. So our to-do is I think that's kind of roughly what we're talking about. Now done that story. probably the should push bool. Yeah, I think that's all it is really. The headline of the story again is probably the should push bool. And yeah, once this is all straightened out, the next thing is then handling the include guy, which would be fun, because you also need to handle the permissions that you saying on it. And then after that, it's resolving the sort of variables within each function. And as a part of the resolving, I think we're just that's going to be the point at which we actually stuff the things into our final structure. So we're at last actually producing an actual config file, a config structure. Right, and that's basically step one in the process, right? That's step one complete once we've got that structure built. I think maybe once we've got that, then we might be in a position where we are copying all of this stuff into Cinera's actual code. And then figuring out how to switch between different configs, making sure, changing all the stuff that was previously looking at the globally set arrays, changing all that stuff to look into the actual config. And then we need to work on making the database support multiple projects. Yeah, but anyway, music's finished, so let's leave it there for now while I get some food. Then we'll come back and do about an hour and a half more or something. Maybe go until midnight. So thank you very much, heroes and heroines, and I will see you shortly. Farewell for now. Just see where I am actually. So the camera's sort of pointing in that kind of a direction. Do I need to turn the camera so I'm a bit more centralised? Maybe that's a bit better. That was it. That is super much. But yeah, anyway, laters.